Hey, Dark Force 213 here. So at the time of recording this, it's been 2 months since the Louisville Regional, and I did not intend for it to take me this long to make a video on my run at Louisville. But here we are, so let's go over that now, I guess. So first off, I made top 64 at Louisville, which to me is a huge accomplishment. Going 8-3 was super awesome. And it's my first time even making day 2 at a regional, let alone being like 1 win away from making top cut even. So I'm really excited about that. I love the team I brought. I had a really great time, and I thought I'd just come over here and share my thoughts on that. So first off, let's get into this team that I built. The team I brought to Louisville was made up of Tyranitar, Excadrill, Talonflame, Sinistcha, Volcarona, and Gastrodon. This team's journey is very interesting. I got a little head start on Regulation H when a friend of mine, Quillinaldafish, announced he would be running a Regulation H tournament in August. He announces his tournaments 1 month in advance, so I was able to start building for his tournament 2 weeks before Regulation H was even officially announced. For this tournament, I built a few teams for rain, sand, and snow. I ended up bringing a Mouse-Ape rain team to the tournament, but I didn't enjoy playing it, so from that point I moved on to sand. I tested out 3 different variants of the team, and by the time I got to variant 3, I was pretty confident in what the team's strengths and weaknesses were. While the team was strong in terms of damage, it wasn't very fast outside of Excadrill and Sand, and I didn't really need both Komodo and Gholdengo on the team. On top of that, there were a few different ideas and Pokemon that I wanted to try out. I went through a ton of testing on this team. I'll scroll through a few of the teams that I ended up testing out, but eventually I came up with the 4 Pokemon core of Tyranitar, Talonflame, Sinistcha, and Primarina. Huh? Where's Excadrill? And why is Primarina here? I'll get to that, but let's talk about these 4 first. Tyranitar is just a very powerful Pokemon and the obvious cornerstone of a Sand team. Powerful knockups and rock slides, plus the insane bulk with an Assault Vest and Sand, make it a force to be reckoned with. I originally was going to run Snarl, but as the format trended towards physical attackers and King Gambit became a problem for my team, I switched to Low-King. Tyranitar with Terra Flying Terra Blast works as a great lure for fighting types hoping to take advantage of its quad weakness. Tyranitar can be a Terra Hog, but it's strong enough to be worth it more often than not. 172 Adamant attack is enough to guarantee an OHKO on King Gambit with Low-King, provided it doesn't Terrasilize, and 36 defense in combination with 252 HP turns Kowtow Clean into a 3-hit KO as well. 20 speed allows Tyranitar to outspeed the base 100 speed tier in Tailwind. 28 special defense doesn't have a super specific reason behind it, the math with Assault Vest and Sand means that no EVs are wasted. Talonflame is the end result of my quest for speed control. I was looking into Talonflame, Murkrow, and a Kilowattrel as my best options, but after I decided to start with Talonflame and see how things went, I never really felt a reason to switch off Talonflame. Talonflame is an incredible tail insider, but it's also a really fast Pokemon. It can outspeed Adamant Dragapult and burn it with Will-O-Wisp, which is so incredible I just couldn't give it up for Prankster Murkrow or competitive Kilowattrel. I was a little hamstrung on the set being forced to run Goggles to not lose Gale Wings to Sandchip, and because I wasn't running Covert Cloak, I thought Protect would be a better move than Flare Blitz or Taunt so I could avoid Fake Out. Yes, I have Terra Ghost, but Talonflame is the last Pokemon on the team that I want to be using Terrestrialization on, and having Protect was honestly so valuable that I didn't mind giving it up. I was able to just deny Fake Out leads from my opponents, or keep Talonflame either healthy or around in so many matches. The 36 attack on Talonflame is only to guarantee that Brave Bird will OHKO no Bullet Whimsicott. Generally, I don't mind throwing a few EVs into small calcs like this. Sinistcha is something I wanted to try out over Amoonguss, so moving into version 4 and beyond, I put it on the team just to see how it would go. Amoonguss was fine, but I just wanted to try out something different, and I never really looked back after trying out Sinistcha. Sinistcha defensively pairs incredibly well with Tyranitar, resisting all of its weaknesses outside of Fairy, and Hospitality is great to pair alongside it as well. Sure, Pollen Puff offers more healing, but being able to defensively switch and heal is good too. Also, Machigacha is just such a good move. It's a grass type that can take advantage of being a grass type offensively, which is great for a team as weak to water as mine was, plus the sustain and burn chance are so strong. With Rage Powder and Strength Sap, Sinistcha became the anti-BS model on the team. I'm not dealing with your Dondozos, I'm not dealing with your Ursaluna Trick Rooms, you're gonna have to fight me on even ground or face the wrath of my tea kettle. 148 bold defense makes it sturdy enough to deal with King Gambit, Life Orb Basculegion, Ursaluna, and Incineroar, while 140 special defense allows it to take on Archaludon. Ursaluna was an absolute must for Sinistcha to deal with. Primarina, on paper, was the best water type for the team. Water and Fairy are a great type combination in the format, Haze is just a good move, and there you go. However, it wasn't that great, so I did eventually remove it from the team. More on that a little later. With these 4 Pokemon, I had 2 different packages I could add on to it. The first was Garchomp and Gholdengo, the second was Excadrill and Kommo-o. Both had their advantages and disadvantages, mainly the Steel types being the advantage and the Dragon types being the disadvantage. Gholdengo is an amazing special attacker, but Garchomp felt lackluster. To be fair, I was running Clear Amulet with Sword Stance and Stomping Tantrum, Dragonfly and Protect, and the damage just wasn't there. Meanwhile, Excadrill's immediate damage and incredible speed in Sand was working out great, along with Sash to keep it alive. But Kommo-o was interesting. Originally, it was great. I was running Clangorous Soul with leftovers, which was pretty cool. I wasn't running Throat Spray because Primarina was hogging the Throat Spray at the time. The lower damage was made up for with extra longevity, and with Sinistcha support I could get up 2 Clangorous Souls sometimes. However, as the format went on, I found that I needed to get off a Clangorous Soul to be useful, and getting off that Clangorous Soul became harder and harder. I couldn't run Excadrill and Gholdengo. I tried that and it wasn't very successful. So I was left with 2 ideas that I wasn't super excited about. So the question became, how do I improve upon these ideas? Improving on Garchomp Gholdengo was difficult. I couldn't exactly replace Garchomp because it's not really a Sand team then, and I didn't feel confident running Earthquake or Life Orb given how bad Incineroar was for my team otherwise, and with 2 ground weaknesses on the team as well. Meanwhile, improving on Excadrill and Kommo-o was, in theory, easy. I wasn't married to the idea of running Kommo-o, I just wanted a fast special attacker whose weaknesses didn't overlap too much with the rest of the team. In practice, that was a lot harder to find. There aren't a lot of fast special attackers in the format, and the ones we do have tend to have pretty bad type overlap with my team. I tried using Hisuian Durowork and Jolteon of all things, but a friend eventually recommended that I try out using Volcarona. I thought that sounded great. I put it on the team, I tried it out, I absolutely loved it, and then a few days later I thought, wait, Volcarona is a fire type. I have 4 water weaknesses on my team now. That said, I think I needed a little forgetfulness to get over my worries about type balance, because Volcarona was outstanding. It offered everything I wanted. Fire and Grass type damage, a fast special attacker, and setup. The set I ran on this team is bulky enough that I could take a hit or 2 if I wanted to get set up a Quiver Dance, but it's fast and strong enough that I could fire off Heat Waves if needed. The choice behind Citrus Berry is kind of interesting. I initially chose it in preparation for a Limitless Tour over other items like Covert Cloak, Clear Amulet, and Weakness Berries because I knew that Citrus Berry, at the very least, wouldn't be bad. After running Citrus Berry for a while and seeing how often it went up and how much sustain it gave Volcarona, I knew I made the right decision. Let's circle back to Excadrill now that he's guaranteed to spawn up the team finally. Why did I pick Excadrill over other potential options? I think Excadrill is honestly underrated in this format. Steel and ground coverage on a single Pokemon is amazing, and its base 135 attack stat is one of the highest available. It's made even better when Sand Rush allows you to run an Adamant Nature over Jolly, giving it a significant damage boost over things like Garchomp and Dragon Bolt. Under Sand, Adamant Max Speed Excadrill has 280 speed, and nothing in the format comes even close to that. I love this Pokemon. The immediate damage output and speed it provided to the team was great. Focus Sash allowed it to stick around on the field for longer, and running single target stab gave it a ton of damage. I didn't want to use Earthquake because I didn't want to damage my allies, and also because it would mean giving up my powerful single target option via Horsepower, or giving up Rock Slide, the only reason you wouldn't want to bring Pelipper against my team. Finally, Gastrodon. The road from Primarina to Gastrodon is very interesting. On paper, Primarina was the best option for the team. A bulky water fairy that does damage and packs haze sounds great. In practice though, it wasn't that good. Oftentimes it would just get bullied by a lot of other Pokemon, even ones it was supposed to be good against like Incineroar. It wasn't even bulky enough to be a reliable switch-in unless I was okay sacrificing it. About 2 weeks before Louisville, I started to look at other water types for better options, especially options that could help me out against Incineroar, opposing Primarina and Rain. I ultimately decided to test out Aquatorist at a local doubleheader the weekend before Louisville, as it was theoretically good into 2 of those. Unfortunately, it was basically useless, but what I learned from that is that I was perfectly fine running a 5 Pokemon team. This meant that the final Pokemon on the team could be much more targeted at my team's weaknesses. I sent out a very long message to a few Discord servers I was in, asking for advice on what Pokemon I could use, and I came back with a list of Gastrodon, Annihilate, Grimmsnarl, and a different Primarina set. I got to work testing these changes, but after getting through Gastrodon and Annihilate, I started getting really anxious and stressed out about playing any more games. At that point, I knew I just needed to stop playing and relax until Louisville. I felt like Gastrodon was the best option for the team given the testing I had done, and that it was good enough to put on the team if it meant I didn't have to worry anymore. Sometimes settling for the good enough option is better than wasting time and energy trying to figure out the perfect option. What makes this team so good is that Tyranitar, Excadrill, and Volcarona are all very strong Pokemon, and they work together very well. They all have a primary attacking stat greater than 130, which is incredible. You have Excadrill to go fast, you have Tyranitar for bulk, and you have Volcarona set up and sweep. Every time you go into a game, you have several options for how you want to approach the game. Each option is a proactive one, allowing you to take control of the game. They also cover each other's weaknesses pretty well, outside of the water weakness. To top it all off, those are just 3 Pokemon, so you can easily bring all 3 of them to a battle, plus an extra support Pokemon. Perhaps you want to lead off with Sand, remove the flying types your opponent has, and now Volcarona is all set up in the back to sweep. Talonflame and Sinistcha help out even further in this regard. Talonflame can speed up basically the entire rest of the team and mitigate the damage of fire types, plus to deal with the fighting types that threaten Tyranitar and Excadrill. Sinistcha can increase the survivability of the team through hospitality and redirection, allowing Tyranitar to bully people longer, help Volcarona get set up, or keeping Excadrill and Talonflame topped off. Oftentimes, I would start the game out by trying to get Excadrill or Volcarona rolling, often with a Talonflame lead. Tyranitar usually came in the back, ready to switch in on weakened teams and finish them off. Sinistcha and Gastrodon were most often just used to deal with specific strategies that my opponent could be running. There are 2 main downsides to the team though. First, the rain matchup is really bad. Pelipper, Archaludon, and Basculegion are all major threats to the team, and it's very difficult to juggle having to deal with all of them while also maintaining weather control. It's also just a very frustrating matchup trying to have to play around that as well, trying to play around the weather setup versus speed control versus trying to get in the damage you have while not letting your opponent take out your Pokemon in exchange. It's not fun. I do not recommend the matchup. Second, a lot of the Pokemon want to stay at high HP in order to function. Excadrill and Talonflame both get a bonus for staying at full HP, and Volcarona and Tyranitar want to be able to leverage their bulk to get things done. I wouldn't say the team struggles to pivot necessarily, but it is vulnerable to opposing pivot options to reset Rain or Cycle Intimidate if you fall behind. I arrived in Louisville on Friday, and the only noticeable thing that happened is that I bought this Vivillon plush. It's adorable. I love it. Let's see how long it stays on my shoulder for the rest of this video. Never mind then. We'll take care of that. Round 1, I had to face off against James Evans. Yes, the James Evans. For those of you who don't know, James Evans is among the best VGC players in North America. He won Worlds in the Seniors Division in 2018, won NAIC in 2022, and now I'm sitting across from him in a Pokemon Regional. James's team is a really interesting one. He was running Grassy Skied Goblingo and Scale Shot Garchomp with coaching Sneasler. It was actually a really fun match, but one ultimately decided by luck. In Game 1, the game was winding down. It was a 2v2 that probably could have gone either way depending on how things played out. However, my Tyranitar decided to get a critical knockoff into James's Goblingo with the Grassy Ski activated, taking it out in one hit and basically ending the game right there. Game 2, I was the one on the losing end of the luck. I got a double Rock Slide miss in his Sneasler and Garchomp, both of which were in the red, and then his Sneasler got a double protect on the last turn of Sand, which meant that both of his Pokemon could outspeed Tyranitar and Excadrill and just end the game. Then Game 3 was a repeat of Game 1. Game winding down, 2v2 that could have gone either way, and Tyranitar decides to end this man's career with a critical Flying Terror Blast into his Rillaboom, basically ending the game. James was not happy after the match, but he ended up making day 2, so that's cool. Round 3 I played against Joey Woodring. Joey was running a Rain Room team, which was something I wasn't fully prepared for. Game 1 I tried to cover for the possibility of both Rain or Trick Room, which ended up not being a smart play. Game 2, Joey just made some really good moves. First, he correctly predicted that I would switch out my Tyranitar into Sinistcha, and he Ice Beamed that slot, putting Sinistcha down to half HP. Once Sinistcha was taken down to that low, there wasn't really much I could do. I still tried to call that he wouldn't use Earthquake next to his Porygon 2, which I'd already knocked off the Eviolite from, so it would probably die, you'd think, right? I burned Terra on Sinistcha, hoping that I could at least get Volcarona to survive the turn, and he goes for Earthquake and KOs both Sinistcha and Volcarona. And to add insult to injury, his P2 survived. Rough match for me. Round 4, I was up against Giovanni or Ranavar. His team is really interesting into mine. I have all the tools I need to beat everything on his team, but the way they're positioned can make a world of difference. For example, Tyranitar versus Alolan Ninetales with Terra Flying on Tyranitar and the Snow Boost from A-Tails. Just the way those two are pivoted, those two Pokemon alone makes such a big difference in who wins the matchup versus just those two even. Giovanni is a really good player. He was making some good reads game 1, which ended up with me losing the game. It wasn't anything I couldn't handle, but I knew that I would have to play smarter if I wanted to win. I started off great in game 2. He led Palafin and Incineroar, and I correctly predicted he would fake out Volcarona and not Talonflame. I protected on Volcarona and burned his Palafin, and Talonflame survived the wave crash. I followed that up with a Protect on Talonflame, correctly reading the following Jet Punch into that slot, and used Giga Drain on Volcarona to take out Palafin. Volcarona did take a knockout from Incin, so both of my Pokemon were at low health, but I just protect Talonflame against the Focus Flare and Quiver Dance on Volcarona. I completely forgot that Talonflame had already protected on the previous turn, and the Quiver Dance on Volcarona was just excessively greedy. They both died, and Excadrill and Tyranitar had to come out with no Tailwind and no burn or damage onto his Garchomp, and Giovanni hit 8 Tails on the back, and there was nothing I could do to recover from that. At this point, I was actually feeling really good, despite being 2-2. I knew exactly why I had lost my previous 2 rounds, and that I just needed to play better, and that I was capable of doing so. I also wasn't concerned about making day 2 or not. I was just there to play Pokemon and have a good time, and I was definitely accomplishing that goal. I took a quick break to eat some lunch, relax, and get ready for the second half of the day. Round 5 was a really interesting matchup against Joseph Kwan. Trick Room featuring Driftblim, Toxtricity, and Iron Defense Body Press Komodo is not something I expected to see. But that's why I focused on what my team is capable instead of what's going on in the meta. Game 1 ended up going to Timer. A ton of Trick Room setup, Sleep turns, Komodo setting up Iron Defense and then losing its boost as Gastrodon chipped its health with Clear Smog over and over and over. This game just took forever. It was around this point I realized just how long games my team took. Despite my team being pretty fast-paced and aggressive, having to sit through multiple instances of Sand Chip and Will-O-Wisp Chip every single turn makes things drag out. And you better hope they don't have Rillaboom, or we have to spend more time just undoing all of that damage. Anyways, I felt like I had the advantage once I realized that the timer was on the table, so I started to play a little bit slower. Ultimately, I probably could have won the game without going to timer, but why take your chances? Game 2, he brought hard Trick Room with Toxtricity, but the game was basically over turn 1 because I got a little greedy and let Komodo KO my Tyranitar for free, thereby losing my best Toxtricity answer. I tried my best to fight it back, but I just couldn't come back from that. Game 3, I adapted, terrestrializing Tyranitar and putting big damage down on Komodo before it got up any iron defenses. Tyranitar is really good in the Trick Room matches, and with keeping Tyranitar and Excadrill safe, I was able to stop Toxtricity from being a problem. A really fun set, and I took the win to go 3-2. Round 7, 4-2, and I have to play a fellow Michigander in Parker Simmons' younger brother Macaulay, who decided to base his entire team around Annihilate. I hate this Pokemon, and having to deal with an entire team dedicated to supporting it was certainly an experience, and not a good one. I don't even really have anything to say about this match even. I ended up winning. I probably got a little lucky, but having to end my day fighting 3 Annihilates was not fun. Round 8. 5-2. I either win and make day 2, or I lose and get Waffle House for breakfast and go home early. Needless to say, I wasn't feeling any pressure. Thomas McCree was running the Dortmund winning team, and despite this team being a recent meta development at the time, I think my team had a really good matchup into it. Sure, Whimsicott can be a little annoying, but outside of Garchomp and Annihilate, both of which I can just burn, there isn't anything on this team that really threatens me. The endgame of Game 2 was really slow, and I was determined to take as few risks as possible, especially with a burn on both his Hydreigon and Clefable up against my Excadrill and Talonflame. I played so slow and passively that I actually ended up running his Hydreigon out of PP on Draco Meteors, and at that point I knew I had secured day 2. So I finished out day 1, 6-2, with a 2-0 victory. I was super happy. This was my first day 2 ever, and with a team I really enjoyed. After celebrating with friends at the venue, my dad picked me up and we went to dinner. I tried as much as I could to relax so I could get a good night of sleep, but getting to bed was hard. Aside from just the adrenaline I was feeling from playing VGC for 9 hours and the excitement of making day 2, I was feeling surprisingly sore. I got up and stretched at 11, and after that I was able to sleep pretty well, until 4 in the morning where I had a nightmare that forced me to wake up. Thanks, brain. After that, I couldn't get back to sleep, my mind was just racing too much. Thankfully, I was able to function on 5 hours of sleep on Sunday somehow. Round 9 was a battle against Bobby Rochelle. Super cool dude, by the way. His team was pretty close to the standard balance team, which is one of the harder matchups for my team. I don't have a ton of notes in this match. It played out fairly standard and was really close. We went to game 3 where I Terror Dart, Kowtow Cleave, Oko'd my Volcarona. Neither of us were expecting that to happen. I made a valiant effort to claw my way back into the game, but I didn't bring Tyranitar to this game, and so it was just too difficult to pull off. Not making top cut was actually kind of a blessing in disguise though. Now I could just focus on playing my last 2 games and could go home afterwards. There isn't much to talk about in round 10, but I did win, and getting a win in day 2 is all I could have asked for. Round 11 was an interesting matchup against Blake Mullins, who was using Wolf Glick's team from Baltimore. I didn't think I would have to fight this team. I was both very intrigued and a little scared. Knowing my abilities could be shut off at any moment was an experience, especially against a team that could go just as offensive as mine. Game 1, I leaned on Talonflame to get speed control going, and Game 2, I somehow got away with leading Tyranitar Excadrill and just charging in. I was playing purely on instinct at this point, so I don't recall too many individual plays, but I was able to take the set 2-0. I ended day 2 with an 8-3 record, placing top 64. I played 27 games and won 17 of them. I had an amazing time, and I couldn't be any more happy with my performance. I'm so happy with all the preparation, the team building, the practice, it all came together here. I was able to make a team I enjoy playing work, and that's the biggest victory I could ask for. I love this team so much, and I'm so glad to see that all the work I put into it has paid off. So now that it's been 2 months since I've gotten to Louisville, I can talk about a few improvements I've made to the team. First, just a quick side note on the Garchomp Golden Go core I mentioned at the beginning. I did actually bring that to a local with Life Warp Garchomp over the Clearium I said I was running, and I ended up winning that local, so that's cool. That gives me another team variant to play with. But as far as this version of the team goes, I have gone back and tried out the Grimmsnarl set over Gastrodon that I wanted to originally. And now that I have some experience with that set, I think it is actually really good, but my team does have a bit of an issue with Incineroar with Grimmsnarl on the team. I've also tried a variant with Florges, but that's more of a meme than a legit option. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video on my experiences at Louisville. I want to give a big shout out to the Pokemon League at Michigan Tech for getting me into competitive Pokemon. I want to thank my dad for driving down to Louisville with me. And I want to thank the Little Root Lessons podcast and also Palkia Academy. Their Discord servers have been amazing for helping me prepare for this tournament. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you next time.